Hello everyone, welcome to your world of mine. Show me yours, and I'll show you mine. And today we have beautiful Bebe here from America, from Virginia. And as I sense into this beautiful, magnificent lady here with us today, I'm really curious and excited about what's going to unfold here today. So welcome, Bebe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me.
For me as an alien, I'm from another planet, and we're really curious about what's happening in your world currently, because we hear so much stories, there's so much versions of reality. So we're really curious to discover more about what's going on Earth at the moment, and moreover, how you see life and all those wonderful things. But let's start with what's happening in your world today.
Fabulous question. I went to a talk because I'm really close to Washington, D.C., which is kind of an epicenter of a lot of chaos in the world. And I went to a talk in D.C. about trade. And is it tactical brilliance or chaos? And so it was very interesting to hear the perspectives of three brilliant Americans and then a Chinese professor, all trade experts. And I really centered on the doctor who was from Taiwan, because he brought in the idea of transformation. So for me personally, in the chaos that I'm existing in externally, I'm also in an inner chaos, which is causing me to question everything. So the idea of transformation, and can you do it individually and collectively, has been very much in my reality.
Wow. When you say that, something's happening in my body. We are very sensitive on my planet, and the body speaks together. The cells vibrate, and the cells shows that, I like what she's saying, or we resonate with that, or because I know from what we hear, there is so much chaos and perceived chaos as well, from people that's not even involved directly. People, onlookers, the commentators and the spectators, especially on social media, which always brings me back to the question of what's it all really about? And it's rather an open question. It's not necessarily something that needs an answer, of what's currently happening in the world everywhere, not only in America. Why is it happening? And for me, if we just sense into that deeper without looking for specific questions, suddenly our experience changes, because we invest so much in our perceptions and what we believe to be right.
Yes. Belief, the beliefs, for me, all my belief systems that I've carried with me up until probably this summer, when a very big event happened, have been like swept away. So my belief in you go and get a good education, you get a degree, you go to work, you be a good worker, you will be rewarded, and everything will turn out okay. That has just crumbled. It's not really true. You can go to work, you can be a good worker, you can raise millions of dollars, because that's what I kind of fell into, is becoming a proposal writer. And I've done calculations. I've probably raised over $10 million, but it's a very unstable position to be in. It's like I didn't shoot high enough. I didn't get enough credentials. And so you constantly go into work environments, and you're immediately put into a status. And it's like, you only have a BA and you're only a proposal writer. It doesn't matter if you've helped us bring in $500 or $1 million. We're going to give you this status in this station. And then if you try to come in as a conscious person, and you're trying to advocate for the underdog, whether it's yourself or someone else, you're trying to advocate for fairness, or you're trying to advocate for truth, when you get into these structured systems and you don't have the right constellation of people working in these systems, you suddenly get very competitive environments. And you suddenly find out that you're stepping on all sorts of other people's toes that you didn't even know that they had 20 toes, you know, or maybe 30 or 40 or 50. It just depends on the insecurities of individuals and then their need to control. It seems over and over again I've experienced the more insecure a person is, or the more inner division that they have and become conscious of and healed and hold, then the more they're able to take it out at everyone around them. So if you rise your head up as a more conscious individual and you advocate for fairness, truth, or whatever, what should be right, you suddenly become a target. And so I think what I had to do when I got fired from my most recent job, because, yes, it's an achievement, because I went to be with my father after he had a massive heart attack. So I left like any normal person would do to go be with my father, who had been technically dead for 15 minutes, but they, due to the miraculous CPR and first responders, they were able to bring him back. He lived in southern Minnesota, so they flew him to the Mayo Clinic. They used the most astounding medical technology, induced a coma, reduced his temperature, so that they could save as much brain capacity as possible. And everything that, like, when I arrived at the Mayo, I saw like a system that was working. It's so rare to really see systems that actually function as cohesive units, because I think what I realized after everything conspired, I've been in so many broken systems. And so this was an event where I entered, the reality of how broken the system that I was trying to exist within became so evident, because while I was at my father's bedside and he needed my attention every second, the CEO of the company insisted that I use all my vacation time to be there with him. Now, I had worked the month before almost 90 hours that they had not paid me for to do 2 government proposals. And I had clearly detailed how much time they needed to recompensate me back for. And I had 50 hours, almost 50 hours, still remaining that they had not compensated me for. So what the CEO was doing a power play to wipe out the fact that I had worked these hours she didn't want to pay me for. I also had 28 hours, which is really a teeny amount of time for Americans to give for people to be with their loved ones when they have a serious crisis. I had 28 hours, which was my official week's work. I was only part-time, that I could have given. But she was insisting that I take all my vacation time to be there with my father. And so when I made the conscious decision not to argue with her, she fired me. And she didn't pay me the week before I went I had worked a full week before I went to be with my father. And my father ended up passing. And she knew all this, and she still decided to go ahead and fire me back by August 1st and just give me only the vacation time. And this just decimated my belief that our systems of work are meant to honor us and take care of us and support us. And then I filed investigations with Department of Labor at state and federal levels, and they were denied because I was offered a letter to work. If you were offered just a letter inviting you to work, that is considered a contract, and therefore the Department of Labor will not investigate. And I asked the officer, I said, that must eliminate almost 90% of the workforce. Who do you now investigate wage theft from? And I'm like, this is a broken system. So our systems of work are, most of them are broken. Our systems of government, most of them are broken. And here I have worked for over 30 years. I've raised $10 million. And I'm going to be with my dying father, and I'm fired. And so, and then other things just started to break apart. You know, like family at times like this, either they'll rise to be your angel, or they can be your demon. And I had a little of both. And so it has left me reeling with everything that I have thought brought me meaning and purpose, and trusted that they would get me through. And if I did a good job, I would be okay, has proven not to be true. And so how do I construct new meaning and find new purpose in systems that I no longer believe in?
Mm. You know, as you share, there are interesting things that arise. So thank you firstly for sharing so deeply with us and so honestly. On the one hand side, why I kept is that I felt that they did you the biggest gift, although it's so traumatic, the experience that you're going through and has gone through, especially with your dad, is that they actually gave you the biggest gift you could ever receive. Because if you were to stay in that system, if everything was going well, according to what you expected from them, of human behavior, you know, of humanity and of humaneness, if they did give it to you, you would have still been there, but you're not.
It's true.
And if you haven't, I've shared this many, many times before, it's just my own belief as well, and from my own life experience, not from stories I've heard from others, but my own life experience. For us to really sense into what's happening in this current world, and to be able to see what's emerging, we need to be released from those shackles of the past. Otherwise, it's comfortable, it's cozy, it's nice, it's working. So why on earth do we need to look at things in a different way? And yes, it shakes us to the core sometimes. And that's actually where the gift of our stories lie, is that we can speak from experience. So it's by example that we live, firstly, and it's by example that we speak. It's not something we overheard somewhere, or it's somebody else's words or the likes. It's authentic, it's real. And when we have such direct experiences with the system, in my experience, it's also very difficult to look at it in a different way, because we can so easily get attached to the story, which nothing is wrong with, but it does keep us from
the narrative.
Seeing what's really going on here. What am I supposed to see through this? But we get attached to the story, to the narrative, and that brings us the pain. But now I want to ask you something very differently, and we really honor your experience and your braveness to share it with us in this way, and to stand up to say it, because I know in such environments it's very difficult to stand up for ourselves, and not only for ourselves, for all of humanity.
Yeah.
To bring in something new, because we need to make space for something new. And that's also, on the other hand, how I see such experiences. Again, only into my own life. That in order to bring in the new, we really have to make space. It's like a cup full of stuff. We're not judging it and saying it's bad or good or whatever it is. It's just full of stuff. And we now need to empty this thing. And sometimes we hold on to this cup, you know. It's our security, it's our safety, although we know it's destructive, it's not serving us. So there's many beautiful things for me as well that comes with the trauma and that comes with the chaos. But you know, I remember one of my dear old friends used to say, when I was still in consulting many moons ago, he used to say to me that if to make an omelette, the eggs must break. But what is in the omelette? It's the inside of the egg. It's the shell that breaks. The egg is still there beautifully. We can make most amazing dishes with it. But it's because we're hanging onto the shell that we feel the pain. So I see a beautiful omelette being making here, but from your point, your perspective, something is happening here. Some amazing egg is busy becoming some kind of omelette here.
I hope so. I hope it's something that is a beautiful metaphor, because what if something new and can emerge that is nutritious and nurturing, something that would go beyond. This gets back to transformation and transcendence, because if I can shed the shell that has kept me contained in putting up with negative systems that are just destructive, they're not helping the people they say they're helping, they're not helping their employees, they're just not doing a lot of good for the world, period. So if I can shed my acceptance, as you were saying, to hold on to these negative systems that are destroying me little by little, and now I'm forced to just hang on to one thing, and the only thing that has been making sense to me, the only thing, is writing. And so that is why I really spend as much time as I can thinking of stuff to put into blogs and writing. I also have a huge story that I've been working on for 7 years, and I feel it's time that needs to emerge now. And it's and you're absolutely right, shedding our attachments to what we thought was safe, what we thought was secure, what we thought brought meaning and purpose, and now we're seeing absolutely does not. And bringing in this new possibility can be terror. I feel a sense of terror, ongoing terror, which probably that's why I wake up in the middle of the night and I read Carl Jung, and then I write a blog about it, because I can't sleep for a sense of anxiety, a terror, fear, and I think it's the shedding of the things that I've clung to. But I have to keep letting them go. I've also discovered recently, in a city like DC, you can actually cry quite openly and no one will notice. So I've become I feel like working through emotion is a physical process, especially grief. And I think you have to allow your body to feel the pain, let the tears come, and move it through your body, almost like you digest food. And so that's why I love this metaphor. Like if through this transformation, and I can let the next thing come through, and I can create something and give something that can help others and be nutritious for others in a positive way instead of these destructive old ways, that is beautiful. And that's worth going through the fear and the pain, I guess. I really wish it didn't have to happen all this way. I really wish there was a redo, but there's not. We only go forward.
So where's your feet facing?
Forward.
Forward.
I'm forward.
Forward, exactly. And sometimes for me, if we are finding ourselves in traumatic experiences or in this chaos through the transitioning that's happening around us and within us, is to just look down at our feet for a moment and just notice what direction are they facing towards. And they will show us, because they know exactly where to go to next. But we're trying to use our mind. So that brings me to some other topic that I'm curious about exploring together with you, which is sense making. Because I think we both share that passion and that body of wisdom that's coming through with that, and maybe in very different ways, but it doesn't matter. So I'm curious, what is sense making to you? What does it mean to you? Because when I talk about people, just saying it first, they think it's immediately the same as making sense. And for me, it's two very different things.
So, yeah, making sense of, I think you're right. For me, when I talk about sense making, I think I'm taking it much more deeper. I am trying to stitch together in my reality the stuff that's coming from within me, as well as the stuff that's all around me. So I feel that there's this merging of your inner realities, the stuff that comes up, that if we let ourselves, if we allow ourselves to let the stuff that's coming up through our heart, and through our dreams, through our visions, to impact us, to sink into it, as you've said a couple of times, into what the meaning is. I especially in the process of writing the story that I've been working on, I've started to see there are these amazing parallels for what is coming from within me and then what is around me, even in my day-to-day reality. Like there's resonance, there's reinforcement, there's symbolism, there is opportunity to see into new meaning that I didn't see before, and to understand something that I wasn't paying attention to before. And the more that I can see into new meaning and bring conscious stuff that I hadn't been paying attention to before and hadn't been conscious, it expands my realm of reality. And then it also can help me be more compassionate and understanding with those around me. Because as I start to understand the stuff that is emerging in me, and I encounter other people where, had I been in a narrower bubble, I could react with annoyance or frustration. But as you grow, you can start to see more context. You can give people more sympathy, more compassion. And that's also something that really became apparent with me, with my father, when he was trying to recover from his heart attack. Everyone that came to his bedside, he really came back so consciously. He got back more of his mental capacity and more his consciousness than the doctors thought was possible, given how much time he had been technically dead. And he was so cognizant. People would come and he's like, "Oh, good land, you came to see me? Goodness sake, you shouldn't have done that. He's in the hospital. He's just had a heart attack." And he was thinking of the other person's need and deferring himself. And he's like, "Thank you. Oh, thank you so much." You know, he was so gracious. And so I think that's probably my biggest lesson right now is humbleness and gratitude and compassion. And this is where I think when you let the stuff coming from in you and you can expand your realm of reality, you can be more compassionate, more humble in self, and you can exalt others higher so that you can welcome them in to helping you expand reality. And I think really that's what we're here to do for each other, is to help each other make sense of this world that we live in together, because we really do make it heaven or hell. There is no heaven or hell. It's here on earth. Day by day, we choose it. We choose it in how we act, treat ourselves first, comes with self first. And then a lot of times how we treat ourselves is how we treat others. So learning to be compassionate first to self, and then humble first to self, you can start to extend love to other and not hate other. If you can start to take those parts in yourself that you that you were shamed of, maybe you were made to feel shameful from adults as a child, and you put that side deep down and buried it, and then when you saw it in others, you would hate it. You can emerge that comes up sometimes through these traumas, and if you could reintegrate that into self, then now you can be compassionate to the other that where once you might have scorned or humiliated them. I think that is the most important journey any of us can embark on as a human being. So that's where I think sense making, that's what I mean when I talk about sense making. That's what I mean when I talk about finding meaning. And then purpose is what are we really here for? What really is our journey as human beings? And what kind of reality, I call it our shared reality, do we want to create together? Because I think we can create any reality we want to. And the limits are right here in heart and how much we know of each other. So that's why, and it can be a terrifying journey to sink into yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, when you share that, I see it's a very interesting visual I have. It's of a building, but it's not a church or a cathedral, but it has high, you know, it's got these high wooden posts. And what that tells me when I sense that from what you're sharing is the inner part that's coming out is supported by the collective. So when we do go through these experiences in transition and the process that you just so beautifully described for us in terms of your perception and your experience of sense making, is that no matter what's arising from the inside, the unintegrated material that's coming up from our psyche, in ourselves, we have cell memory, we have so many intelligences that we're not aware of, and they all play together. They're not like we've learned to experience life in silos. It doesn't happen like that as a being. But when those things emerge, is to know that we are protected. There's a foundation around all of this. No matter how traumatic it feels and how shattering things might feel in one specific moment, it's just to know that, again, if we don't get attached to it and just see it for what it is, we can create distance with it as well that helps us integrate it better. Because otherwise we cannot see it, because it's deep inside of ourselves. So we need to be able to put it out somewhere that we can look at it in a more objective way, and not with all the other stories associated with it, that we can get to the energy of it. What's it really about? The essence of it. But I love what you're sharing about your experience of that which emerges from within you is synchronized with what's happening outside in the world around you. So a lot of people would tell me when I ask this to them, is what happens outside of you a mirror of what's happening inside of you? Or is it simply a fractal of what's happening? So for example, let me maybe say it in another way. Because a lot of people get very upset when you mention something like that, because I would say, but there's all this bad stuff happening in the world, but I'm not a bad person. So how can it be a reflection of me? So in your view, is a fractal of what's going on inside of you that's represented in the outside world? Or is it a representation of your whole being, of what's happening in the outside world? Because I think we need to become more clear on this to lessen the confusion. Because empaths, for example, will take anything on. They will take everything on what's happening in the outer world, which is not a good thing either for us, because then we cannot serve at all. So we have to be able to stay, to have that discernment, to stay objective, and yet being able to reflect the inside of what is this showing of me. So I think it's a very fine line. What's your experience of that?
I'm kind of writing about that with my Dodo series, where right now because I am falling, since so much of my belief systems have crumbled. I've had to go really, really deep. And right now it feels like I'm in this vortex. So I have part of my blog, I have the Dodo bird, which actually went extinct. And he is having to navigate this vortex, and he doesn't see anything. He doesn't see his reflection in anything. He's just lost in this void. So right now, it feels like I'm in this void, and I see no reflection of the outside world. But previously, I have experienced synchrony with what was emerging inside of me and the outside. And I really firmly believe that each of us has our own inner seed, which is connected to many other seeds. You know, all of us are connected. So I agree that the chaos that is going around us is reflected inside of us, and to not look at self and see how self can contribute to the healing of the chaos, or the sense making of the chaos, to create I guess maybe a little bit more conscious land. Each of us can contribute to creating this conscious land by healing the division in that's right inside ourselves. I'll give one example. Because of my fear and having lost my job and having no source of income right now, I was shopping in an outdoor market, and I had just bought a bunch of stuff. I bought apples, I bought nothing crazy or outrageous, but a man who was selling newspapers for homeless. They write, the homeless write, and they sell these newspapers to bring money for the homeless shelter, comes up and says, "Will you buy my newspaper?" And my fear and sense of lack and limitation and bad luck and just bad things happen just took over me. It's like, I'm on the verge of being homeless. I can't do this. And immediately, as I said this to this man, I saw the hypocrisy. I could see that in myself in that moment. Here I'm holding all these bags of expensive food that I've just bought. And he looked at me confused and hurt. And I felt immediately bad that I did that, and ashamed of myself that I did that. And so I've been reading this reinterpretation. It's called No Time to Waste. I don't think I have it right here, but it's on an ancient Buddhist text, and they're saying that it's fine if you make a mistake. The key is becoming aware of it. Correct it the next time. So next Thursday I went, and I did the same thing, and the man came up to me again, and I said, "Yes, please give this to me." And I gave him $12, much more. He just wanted $2. I was like, "Take this." And every Thursday since, I have sought him out and I have given him money. And I'm like, if I end up being homeless and I end up writing for the paper, that's fine, you know. But I have to reconcile my inner fear, my inner hypocrisy, my inner greed. That all exists in me too. And I had that moment where I was saying this to the man, and I could immediately see myself outside of myself looking, look how stupid you look, and immediately regretting what I had just done. But, you know, still kind of emotional and upset. So I wasn't able to rectify it at that moment, but I said, I'm going to do better the next time. And and I've done that. And now it's more like, be gracious where you can, give where you can, heal what you can inside, and trust that your feet are taking you in the right direction, even though you don't know where it's going yet. I don't know if that answers what you're saying, but...
Well, thank you, it does beautifully. The one thing that clearly comes up for me when you share your experiences is that it's an awareness thing. We become more aware of what's really going on inside of ourselves, how we approach life, and how we also respond to life. And through that awareness, next time it's on a higher level. The awareness is more in tune with who we really are, and not only our wounded parts playing out. And the more we can step up into the true pure us, the lessen the grip of these wounded parts of ourselves have on us. Yeah. Because if they rule us, there's no way we can experience abundance, beauty, all the beautiful things in life, joy, delight. We can't experience it because we're coming with our station of life is from a different, we're getting off from the wrong station, which is not our true being, which I wonder if I can share with you our version of sense making. And I would love to invite you to perhaps just sense into it, how it feels for you, because it's a different take on what's happening currently in the world and the collective intelligence.
Yes.
Whereas we've been conditioned from childhood to look for intelligence outside of ourselves.
Yes.
So we've been, other people instructed us what to do, how to see life through their own mental filters and all the emotional baggage. So it was, everything was tainted, number one. So we never really learned how to ignite and stimulate and strengthen and expand all our own sensibilities that's inside of ourselves. And I'm not only speaking now about the 5 physical senses that we as human beings learn that we have. We actually have more than 37 senses, which the Aboriginal people from like Australia and the likes were speaking about a lot. And they experienced it, and it hasn't died out at all. It's still here with us. And there's even more. There's 37 that we are aware of at this moment in time, because a lot got lost through time. And we have inner sensibilities, like our intuition, and our intuition is not the voice of our inner critic or the wounded parts of ourselves that's lashing out and that's trying to protect and trying to defend and being combative because it's trying to defend of its state of being. But it is the inner sensibilities. We have loads and loads of inner sensibilities, and then we also have extrasensory sensibilities. And some people call it your sixth sense, and we have played around with our seventh sense, and there are even more. But in sense making, the way we look at it and the way we practice it is, instead of us looking outside first for intelligence, we discover our own intelligence within ourselves. So our own sensibilities are heightened. But we're not doing it for ourselves. So it's not for the individual. We put away our own agendas. We sideline it for a moment. It's still there. We can still go and bring it back into our experience. But we go into a process where we become completely still. No matter what's going on around us, it could be complete chaos, but it's the most beautiful process. And then we just wait. And we allow the collective to inform us. So it's not we trying to make sense of what's happening around us. That's why I said there's a big difference between the two. It's we allow the collective through our senses, because that's how we experience life as human beings, to inform us of what is emerging. So it's not about what's emerging even inside of ourselves. We are part of it anyway. Like you explained, we are it. We are part of it. But the association is no longer there with the individual part initially. In the end, it has personal meaning, it has practical application, and it also has a symbolic meaning for humanity, and it has a global impact. So everybody wins in the process. But the intention and where that energy flows from is not from us outwards. It's from the outside in, from the universal collective. And that intelligence is, in terms of normal language, it's very hard to explain it, but that intelligence does not know anything like poverty, like fear, like lack, like scarcity consciousness, like victim consciousness. It is what we are truly are about as humans, this beautiful planet and the individual. And we then simply wait. So we have many ways of triggering this collective intelligence to inform us by simply maybe looking at a visual, because it has no relation to me. It's not something that I've got something vested in. It's not in purpose of my own personal agenda, for example, or what's currently happening in my own life. So we look at something outside of ourselves, or we listen to something outside of ourselves as a group of people, for example, or two people, and we notice what emerges for us while we're watching that. And it's always very interesting to see what happens with the collective intelligence. Because when people share what's emerging for them, it has nothing to do with what's currently happening in their own lives. So it's not some part of them that's now sharing, but that's how they experience this, or that's opinion of them. Because it's a higher awareness that's speaking through us. And then we go, that's the sensing part. So we sense it, and we can all use different senses to, we're all very different. We've been gifted to, some are much stronger than others. And different people have different roles in this play. Not that we assign them, it just naturally happens. Some might be a translator of what's coming through, that somebody else said, for example, and they were not even aware they've got that ability, but it's natural to them. It's part of their natural beingness. And that's the sensing part. And then we go into a process to the making part only. So all this information coming in through this process. What can we now do to give it context and meaning? Firstly, collectively for humanity, and then on a personal level as well. And for each person, it will be different on a personal level. But as a group, then, we use all our creative abilities to create this context, because context in Latin means weave together. But now, the place where we're doing it from is not for ourselves, it's for humanity. So the awareness is on a very different level. But when we then turn inside, it's most beautiful to see, but wow, in this part of my life, this has specific meaning for me now and value. And now I have to decide, am I going to embody it? And am I going to really be being this that came through? Or at least try to do it in the specific area of my life that would make sense for me. So what's in this process so powerful is that no matter what we're going through, because we are struggling so much, we are so desperate to get solutions for the world, but we don't realize that the collective has all the answers. What makes us think that we are more intelligent than the collective intelligence that knows what needs to happen right now? What should emerge?
It's the ego.
It
The
knows. Yes. But in this process, it beautifully takes away all those. I wouldn't, because we in this type of language, we don't even speak about problems. All the dilemmas we have currently in the world, there are infinite answers to them in the universe. Infinite. We need to bring them in. That's our purpose as human beings. We need to connect to them. And this is just one way. No, we're not saying this is the only way. It's one way. But what it does in terms of conversations, especially in group environments, is that the usual opinion thing disappears. You know, and where people need to be heard and seen, that disappears. Because it's from the outside in. And then the emergence comes through each of us in a very different way. And then maybe later, maybe a week or 2 or 3 or 4 later, we'll come together again to see what emerged in our own lives and what insights we got through the process. And then we put it all back together, and then we go into the weaving process again. And that's where real relationships are born, because the things that emerge in this way is beyond the usual human relationship. The way people start to engage with each other. There's no power struggles. or one that needs to talk all the time and being heard, for example. So it's just the most beautiful process as well. And it's not to say that your most beautiful process that you associate with sense making is wrong at all. For me, the wonder is that when people then do get together, we can interweave all these things.
Absolutely. I have found exactly what you have been describing through the process of creating my narrative. So, but we as individuals, we are stories ourselves. So what I found by writing my fictional narrative, this story outside of myself, which I thought was outside of myself, and now I realize it's just coming through me. It, I would get to the blank page, and I'm like, what comes next? So I would formulate in my mind. I would use my intelligence and my consciousness to say, I need to write the next page. It's blank. My characters got here. And I would pose a question about what needs to happen next. And I would then just pose the question in my mind, and I would go out for a bike ride, or I would go walk, or I would do something else. And every time it got stronger and stronger, the answer would emerge. It would come to me through nature. It would come to me through a thought as I was biking along. And something in just whatever, the wind, the colors, someone passed me. Sometimes it would come to me through a stranger or a friend that comes up and says something to me, and they say exactly the thing that answers the question I just posed for my fictional narrative. Or music. One of my characters is called the last DJ of Earth. He has this crazy idea that human beings are antennas, and they choose the dial like a radio station. That they like you're saying, the collective is all around, and human beings are these special. His idea is human beings are these special like antennas, but we get to choose what dial we tune into. And so he calls himself the last DJ of Earth because he feels that people have tuned into the wrong channels. And so he in this fictional future, the corporations have taken over, and they start to limit the creative works that humans are exposed to. So he's a really good hacker. So he goes and takes over their transmission things, and he does these DJ sessions that show people the breadth of humanity. And he believes people can learn stuff through music. So I created these extensive playlists, and I'll listen to them sometimes while I'm working out. And I have found sometimes the creative inspiration comes, the right songs for the questions I formulated come into my playlist, or I feel drawn to something, I start listening, and these creative visualizations start to come, and it starts to weave together, and then I write the next chapter. But then I realize also, because I'm an evolving story, I can do the same process for self. And then, as you explained, once we learn how to do that for self, then we can learn to do it in groups. And you have to, but I think it's important to have a little bit of structure and to pose the questions and then wait.
Yeah, we ask questions.
And tune in.
We do a process to tune in, and also we have an intention that we put out verbally beforehand, but we also ask open questions like, what wants to happen here? Or yes, what wants to be known through me and to me today? Mm-hmm. And we do that every day. It's not only when we're in a group of people. So it becomes a lifestyle. And it's like you say, it's exactly the same as you explained. It comes from everywhere. And it's the meaning that we attach to it that really gives it context. And it seems that we use most of,
and that's where the individuals, that's where the individuals, we bring in the color. We bring in the texture. The texture, because we come from these different experiences. Mm-hmm. So yes, the same collective intelligence can come to a whole bunch of people, but each of us sees a different bandwidth,
different part. And then the embodiment part comes in. That when we go into the embodiment part, that's the most beautiful part. And it's stuff that we never learned at school, we never learned it at university. and it's part of us. It's who we are, and that embodiment part is where the actual fun and the play comes in, because it's like you say, we almost need to have a name change because suddenly we are this a specific archetype that we never even thought we would have been before. You know, we take on another role in life, which is most wonderful because it shows us that there's so much more about us than we actually believe or think.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm really curious about the story. I'm just waiting. Is that part of the book that you're writing, or is that part of your blogs, your Dodo story?
No, Dodo is completely just kind of like getting me through this tough time. It's kind of a very simplified sub story. But the fun thing about Dodo is I pull in characters from my main story. And so you do see the last DJ in Dodo, because before the divine Dodo, there was Girl with Dragon. Now, here's the weird thing about this, the whole, why I've kept it going. Some people have asked, like, I don't think this is helping you. Why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, but it is helping me, because I wrote Girl with Dragon, and started the information for the divine Dodo and Girl with Dragon. All of this happened before my father's heart attack. All of this came to me, and I didn't even know why I started drawing this series or making this silly story. To me, it was very simple, and I was just having fun with it until my father had his heart attack. And then I got fired, and then my life fell apart. And then I was put into one of the most deepest struggles I've ever confronted. And then I start to go back, and I'm like, the dragon that the girl is caught in is like my circumstances, my fate. It's all the unconscious stuff that the whole thing starts out with the girl is saying, but they told me it was a nice dragon. You know, like, you go to work, they told me this was a nice place to work. And suddenly you're caught in the jaws of the dragon. It's not so nice. And so she's like trying to get out, and everyone's offering her hands, but if she reaches up for a hand, she's going to get clamped. So how is she going to get out of the dragon? And so I wrote all this before all this happened to Dad and my work. Little by little, you know, first the rescuer's helping her, and she's like, no, I can't reach up to you. I can't trust you. But then her imagination starts to pull in. So then I pull in these characters from the story I've been writing, and they each offer her a power from within. One is use your power song. That's the last DJ. He's like, everyone has a power song. Find your power song, use your power song. Each of the characters from her imagination starts to appear to help her to get out of the dragon. And, you know, like, there's the traditional, like, I didn't really know as I was writing, I didn't know how she was going to get out of the dragon. She either gets eaten and she goes through the digestive tract and she gets recycled, or you slay the dragon. And I was like, she's not going to be able to like slay the dragon in the traditional way. So how is she going to do it? And really what it is she had to integrate the dragon. The dragon is part of her, and she needs to integrate the dragon into her. But at the end, it took so much energy for her to break the jaws of the dragon and actually integrate the dragon with her, that she and all her creative, they disappear and they turn into the Dodo. And then the Dodo's left. The Dodo's left to try to bring, it's like she overshot. It's like her circumstances were so powerful, so overwhelming. She used so much energy. The only thing left of her that she could bring back was the Dodo. And it went from her to him, because the Dodo is definitely male. And there's a part coming up that I haven't written yet where the Dodo actually does see the remnants of the girl. And he realizes it's the girl that forsake him, because he's been asking this question this whole time. How have I ended up into this place? Someone has forsaken me. And this is a terrible fate. This is a terrible thing that's begotten me. But he has to get out of his victim thinking and see the bigger picture. and integrate himself with the greater need of humanity. And that's what saves him, is his tears of empathy are able to give him the flexibility to bend and not break. And that's where this character, the last DJ, through his songs, he starts to come to comfort the Dodo through these songs. And he's like, you're not the only one that's been forsaken. You're not the only one going through a tough time. And the Dodo starts to see there's more to his thing, but he still is going to discover it's the girl that put him here. But the girl had no choice. And as that blog progresses, it'll become apparent. But no, this is all just kind of like me playing with this other bigger story that I wrote, and I feel like I just don't have any more energy to put it out there and get rejected by all the publishers. And I don't even want to really have a publisher buy my copyright. Like I don't want to play that game anymore. I feel we could create a better reality as artists, as people that make things in the world and create a world. So much creativity, so much talent never makes it through the gatekeepers. It stays, we can experience it in our local communities, at our local theaters, but it just feels to me like so much gets contained, and there's only a few that make it to these tops. They go through the gatekeepers, they go through these giant pillars, the publishing industry, the music industry, the movie industry, and they go through these tunnels, and then we get kind of like this generic mass cultural entertainment. Why can't we have a way to create, co-create, and find ways to either gift and share? Like if people love what people are doing, they can, and they have the means, why can't they gift the creator? I was listening to something about the guy Stan that just died, that created Marvel. He didn't get creators' rights because he worked, Marvel got his creative content. He did have a lot of money, but there was someone who knew this man when he died, and he didn't get all the wealth of his creation. And this is a universe now that makes billions of dollars. I also saw on Antiques Roadshow the Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. He sold The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings to a university in Wisconsin for the sum total of $5,000 at his time. He was so poor, it wasn't taken off at that time. He sold his creativity. That's all he got from it. And now we worship the Lord of the Rings. We have to find a way, not all of us worship it, but a lot of people, it resonates to this creativity that Tolkien was able to sink into and that bring alive. Why can't we create spaces where artists of every kind, musicians, can collaborate with actors, can collaborate with writers, can collaborate with web designers and media, and you create these collaborative communities that put out content where people can go, and those that are able, or maybe there's a small paywall, like $1 to go and have this immersive experience, and then all the money that is generated from these small collaborative creative communities gets split among the creators, and it doesn't go through a gatekeeper. And it would terrify the corporations.
There are really lots of those, by the way.
Are there?
Yeah, there are a lot of Creative Commons. That's what they call them. And something that's in Europe really merging in a very, very strong way is called Creative Rings as well.
This would be.
Yeah, so there are many different ones already out there. But I want to tell you that when you speak about this, your passion comes through. And it feels to me like you have to begin to use your voice more. Just sharing the story about the dodo and the dragon by itself. You can create an online a series where you record yourself, where you share the story, and you can sell it. You can sell it on iTunes. You can sell it on places like Vimeo and the likes. So there are a lot of platforms where you actually can do that. But personally speaking, I just want to tell you, when you were speaking about this, you were lighting up your story that's busy unfolding here. And you can really create a beautiful series and sell it. It's a way for you to get income. And it's the beginning of something much bigger. That's all I can tell you now. It's the beginning of something much bigger. Because your whole physique changed, everything, when you spoke about this. And just thinking about it, just talking about the Creative Commons type scenario. And the moment you put that intention into the universe, you will attract the people who need it. You know, I always share a story of a spider. A spider, she builds her web. And then she waits. And the food comes. She doesn't run after the food comes. Because the web's there and the insects come in and then she can eat them. And the other thing that she does is every single day she rebuilds part of her web. Because some of it might be damaged by humans or by other creatures or by the wind or by a draft. And then she simply goes and reweaves her whole web. And then she waits. And they come. The food comes. So all you need to do is to presence what you just shared with us today in whatever way you are guided, because it will wipe all that bad stuff away that you've been going through. It will. And this is your purpose, it's in your voice. And yes, in the story, in the narrative, but it's also your voice speaking about it. Your voice became much stronger when you were speaking about this as when you were telling your story about what you just went through after your dad got ill. And the other thing that I picked up that I want to share with you is, and again, please take the good and leave the rest, is it's like an internal healing of your own masculine and feminine inside of yourself. That's also busy happening in your story.
Oh, it is. It totally.
It totally is. So it makes it even more real, because if the thing that came up for me when you were sharing the story so passionately was, you are living it now. You are getting the opportunity to live it, to really presence it, because the power will lie in that. It's one thing to hear a beautiful story. It's something else to see it happening and to be it happening. And that's where you become the spider. You're busy creating your beautiful web.
And that's where I feel that's where I get my joy. That's where I find my meaning right now. Is just to keep focusing on the story, or focusing on whatever seems to be in my consciousness, trying to crystallize it and make this a sense making and meaning for me.
So my dear Bebe, if you have a message for the ones who came more recently, the younger ones, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. I feel like my story is the story that I still have to put out there is for the young ones. And the main character in that story is a young girl who follows all the rules. She's following what the corporation has told her, but they haven't told her everything. And her circumstances, this is my story, my fictional story that I still have to put out there, make it abundantly clear that she doesn't know everything, and that she and her whole family and everything she knows are in terrible danger now. And she has to go within herself because it turns out she's kind of like the linchpin. She has an ability. I really steer away from power, because I feel the message I want to give young people is we all have these abilities in ourselves. So her super abilities are empathy, intuition, and compassion. And these are the forces that she needs to learn to unleash inside of herself, despite terrible fear, despite physical threat of death and death happening all around her. She has to marshal this inside of herself and learn how to channel these abilities out into the world to change her fate. So my whole book is about fate versus destiny, because I feel there is a difference between fate and destiny. I feel fate sometimes is our circumstances that we are born into, and all of us have circumstances. All of us are dealt different cards of fate. And sometimes that is light and we can bob along happily, and sometimes it's very heavy and it can crush you. It can kill you. And how, but it takes a special to really reach up. The only way to really get out of your hole of fate is to go up. And to reach your destiny. And how do you go up? And for her, it's consciousness. And I think it's for everyone. It's the only way to get to the next level is to increase up in a level of consciousness. And it's terrifying for her. And that's what I have a message, because I feel our young people, we are dealing a terrible card of fate to them. We are making destructive decisions right now that is damaging Earth, damaging our environment, damaging political structures, damaging food, damaging water, damaging so many things. And these things are going to get worse and worse and worse. They're not going to get better unless we start making choices right now. We have run out of time. And we got to make choices right now to change our fate, our collective fate. And so the message to young people, I think, is definitely in the story I've written, is it's in us. And the superpowers are empathy, compassion, intuition, and there's a few others, but they're softer. They're kind of what are considered the weak abilities in human by the current system. If you look at the voices, like you're talking about, we're taught to, you do this, you believe this, you do this, you negotiate with power, you negotiate with strength, you don't leave anything on the table, you get all, very Trumpian stance, right? No, I don't think so. This way of thinking is breaking humanity, and these softer qualities. That's what really created civilization. That's what really strung us together. That's what's kept us living together in these amazing civilizations that we've built, is our ability to be compassionate, to love, to embrace each other. And that's what we have to unleash. And that's what the young people need to, they do this naturally. Children, some don't, but a good mother or father will guide them. But I think children do this naturally. So don't cherish that, find a way to protect this. It's okay to be idealistic. It's okay to be naive. And use your superpowers to absorb the dragon. I don't have any other word.
Oh, thank you so much, my dear. Bebe, thank you. It was wonderful having you with us. Everyone, we will leave Bebe's information at the back of the podcast that you can contact her. I think you're all curious about her stories, both the ones that she's written before and the dragon and the Dodo story. And please contact her, and who knows what will unfold through that new engagement. So, Bebe, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're really looking forward to your amazing narratives and stories and your own embodiment of this. We're looking forward to hear more about you and from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.